forests of the Carpathian Mountains, there ran an old, forgotten railway line. This line was home to the Midnight Express, a train shrouded in mystery and dark legends. It was said that once a year, on the eve of the winter solstice, the train would appear, steaming through the night, a ghostly echo of its former glory. The story of the Midnight Express was intertwined with the tale of a young boy named Alexei, who lived in a small village nestled in the mountains. Alexei was fascinated by the tales his grandfather told of the old railways and the mysterious train that once connected the remote villages of the Carpathians. One winter's eve, driven by a mixture of curiosity and bravery, Alexei set out to witness the Midnight Express. He waited at the old, derelict station as the clock struck midnight, the air thick with anticipation. As the legends foretold, the Midnight Express emerged from the fog, its ancient engine roaring to life, its carriages a ghostly silhouette against the night sky. Overcome with excitement, Alexei boarded the train, stepping into a world of shadow and steam. The train was a relic of a bygone era, its carriages adorned with velvet and brass, flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows. But as the train plunged deeper into the forest, Alexei realized he was not alone. The train was haunted by the spirits of its past, passengers and crew, forever bound to the Midnight Express. The spirits were restless, trapped in an endless journey, their whispers echoing through the carriages. Alexei found himself caught in their world, a spectator to their spectral routines, the lines between the living and the dead blurring. As the train thundered through the night, the spirits began to take notice of Alexei. Some were benign, lost souls seeking company, while others were malevolent, their deaths marked by tragedy and bitterness. Alexei learned of the train's tragic history, a history of accidents, disappearances, and unexplained events. The Midnight Express was a collector of souls, its journey a penance for the sins of its past. The boy realized he needed to escape before the train reached its final destination, a place of darkness and despair from which no passenger had ever returned. His only hope lay in unraveling the mystery of the train, to find a way to release the spirits and himself from their endless journey. Navigating the labyrinthine carriages, Alexei encountered the spirit of the conductor, a gaunt figure with sorrowful eyes, bound to his duty. From him, Alexei learned of a ritual that could free the spirits and stop the train, a ritual that required understanding the train's sorrow and giving it peace. As the train hurtled towards its final stop, Alexei, with the help of the more benevolent spirits, performed the ritual in the heart of the locomotive. He offered memories of life and hope, his words a balm to the restless souls aboard. With the completion of the ritual, the train began to slow, the spirits fading into the night, their whispers of thanks a gentle breeze in Alexei's ear. As the first light of dawn broke, the Midnight Express came to a rest at the ferry station from which it had departed. Alexei stepped off the train, the morning sun a stark contrast to the darkness of the night. He watched as the Midnight Express vanished in the morning mist, its curse lifted, its journey ended. The tale of Alexei and the Midnight Express became a legend in the Carpathian villages, a story of a brave boy who faced the ghosts of the past and freed them from their eternal bondage. And in the heart of the mountains, the old railway line lay silent, the Midnight Express no longer a phantom in the night, but a memory, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead.
Now the second story.
In the sprawling, fog-laden landscape of rural England, there ran a decrepit railway line, long abandoned by the living but not forgotten by the forces of the supernatural. This railway line was home to the Phantom Express, a ghostly train that appeared only under the cloak of the darkest nights, its mournful whistle echoing through the mist. The legend of the Phantom Express was well known in the nearby villages, spoken of in hushed tones and with fearful glances. It was said that the train was haunted by the spirits of those who had perished in a tragic accident many years ago, their souls trapped within the rusted carriages, doomed to relive their final journey for eternity. In one of these villages lived a young girl named Abigail. Abigail was a curious and adventurous soul, undeterred by the ghost stories and warnings of her elders. Driven by a mixture of bravery and recklessness, she set out one night to witness the Phantom Express for herself. As the clock struck midnight, Abigail waited by the old, overgrown tracks. Right on cue, the Phantom Express materialized out of the mist, its ghostly form a chilling sight. Overcome with a sense of dread yet compelled by her curiosity, Abigail climbed aboard. The interior of the train was a vision of decay and desolation. The seats were tattered, the walls covered in layers of rust and grime. Abigail felt a chill run down her spine as she realized she was not alone. The train was inhabited by the spectral figures of its past passengers, their faces twisted in expressions of eternal anguish and despair. As the train began to move, an eerie silence fell. Abigail felt a strange sensation, a feeling as though the spirits were watching her, their ghostly eyes boring into her soul. It was then that she saw a young girl, not much older than herself, sitting alone in one of the carriages. The girl's eyes were dark, void of life, yet they held Abigail with an almost magnetic pull. Drawn to the girl, Abigail approached her, only to be stopped in her tracks by a sudden, overwhelming force. The spirit of the girl, consumed by the tragedy of her untimely death, latched onto Abigail, seeking a living vessel to escape her ghostly imprisonment. Abigail felt her body and mind being invaded by the spirit, her consciousness pushed to the edge as the ghostly girl took control. The other spirits on the train began to stir, their moans and cries filling the air as they sensed the presence of the living among them. As the train thundered through the night, Abigail fought a desperate battle for control of her own mind. The spirit, fueled by a lifetime of sorrow and rage, was a formidable force, but Abigail's will to live was equally strong. The train journeyed deeper into the night, passing through landscapes that grew increasingly twisted and surreal, reflections of the tormented souls aboard the train. Abigail, trapped within her own body, glimpsed visions of the tragic accident that had doomed the passengers, the horror of their final moments etched into the very fabric of the Phantom Express. In a final, desperate act, Abigail mustered all her strength and confronted the spirit possessing her. She offered the spirit a sense of peace, acknowledging her pain and sorrow, and promising to remember her, to tell her story so that she would not be forgotten. This act of empathy and compassion was enough to weaken the spirit's hold. As the first light of dawn broke, the Phantom Express began to fade, the spirits of the passengers finding solace in Abigail's promise, their cries quieting to whispers. Abigail awoke by the side of the tracks, the Phantom Express gone, the morning sun casting a gentle light on the world around her. She was free, but the experience had left its mark on her, a haunting reminder of the night she had journeyed on a ghostly train and faced the depths of sorrow and despair. The tale of Abigail and the Phantom Express became a legend in her village, a chilling story of the night when a young girl faced the ghosts of the past and emerged with a tale of horror and hope. And in the heart of the English countryside, the old railway line lay silent, the Phantom Express a ghostly memory, its legacy carried on in the whispers of the wind and the courage of a girl who had stared into the abyss and survived.
Now the third story.
isolated from the nearest town by miles of dense, snow-covered forest, there ran an old railway line. This line was known for the midnight train, a phantom locomotive that appeared only during the harshest of winter nights, its haunting whistle echoing through the frozen expanse. The legend of the midnight train was a dark one, spoken of in fearful whispers by the villagers. It was said that the train was cursed, bound to the tracks by a tragic event long ago, and that it carried the souls of the lost and the damned. In one of these remote villages lived a young girl named Anastasia. Curious and defiant, she dismissed the old tales as mere superstitions. However, one fateful winter night, driven by a desire to prove the legends false, Anastasia ventured into the icy wilderness to witness the midnight train for herself. As the moon cast its pale light over the snow-blanketed forest, Anastasia waited near the old, rusted tracks. Without warning, the ground began to tremble, and a chilling wind swept through the trees as the midnight train materialized, its black engine billowing dark smoke into the night sky. Overwhelmed by a mix of terror and fascination, Anastasia climbed aboard. The interior of the train was a scene of eerie decay, seats covered in layers of dust, the air thick with a cold, unyielding silence. As the train lurched forward, Anastasia realized the grim nature of her situation. The train was inhabited by the tormented spirits of those who had perished in the wilderness, lost travelers, unfortunate souls who had wandered too far from safety, and even sinister figures with twisted, malevolent intentions. The train seemed to travel deeper into an otherworldly realm, the landscape outside the windows becoming increasingly nightmarish. Twisted trees with claw-like branches, vast chasms filled with an eternal darkness, and distorted faces appearing in the fog were just glimpses of the horrors that lay beyond. The most terrifying of all was the conductor, a spectral figure with hollow eyes and a mournful expression, bound eternally to the train. He revealed to Anastasia the truth of the midnight train. It was a purgatory for lost souls, trapped in an endless journey through the night. As the night progressed, Anastasia was tormented by the spirits of the train. She witnessed their tragic fates, each story a tapestry of sorrow and despair. The air was filled with their wails and cries, a symphony of the damned that threatened to overwhelm her sanity. Desperate to escape, Anastasia searched for a way to stop the train and free the trapped spirits. Her only hope lay in an ancient ritual, spoken of in hushed tones by the conductor, a ritual that could release the souls and end the train's cursed journey. Gathering her courage, Anastasia performed the ritual in the heart of the locomotive, reciting ancient incantations as the spirits of the train gathered around her. The ritual required a sacrifice, a piece of her own soul, offered willingly to the darkness. As she completed the ritual, a blinding light filled the train, the howling of the wind and the cries of the spirits reaching a deafening crescendo. Then, in an instant, silence fell. Anastasia found herself alone on the tracks, the midnight train gone, the first light of dawn creeping over the horizon. She had stopped the train, but the cost was evident in her eyes, now marked with a depth of sorrow far beyond her years. The tale of Anastasia and the midnight train became a legend in the Siberian wilderness, a chilling story of a young girl's encounter with the darkest forces of the supernatural. Her bravery had ended the train's cursed journey, but the memories of that night haunted her for the rest of her days. And in the heart of the forest, the old railway line lay silent, the midnight train a spectral memory, its legacy a warning of the thin veil that separates the living from the torments of the lost and the damned.
Now the fourth story.
In the vast, sprawling network of the Indian Railway system, there existed a train shrouded in terrifying legends, the Rajani Express. This train, designated Train 666, was rumored to be cursed, haunted by a sinister evil spirit that preyed upon the passengers who dared to travel on it. The legend of Train 666 was known throughout the region, a tale of horror that had been passed down through generations. It was said that the train was possessed by the spirit of a malevolent entity known as the Dark Passenger, a vengeful spirit born from a tragedy that occurred many years ago on the ferry tracks the train traveled. In the bustling city of Delhi, a young man named Arjun, a skeptic and a man of science, dismissed these stories as mere superstitions. He booked a journey on Train 666, determined to debunk the myths surrounding it. As Arjun boarded the train one humid evening, he couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. The train's interior was eerily quiet, the passengers few, their faces etched with a sense of apprehension. The journey began as any other, the train chugging along the tracks, passing through the vast landscapes of India. But as night fell, a sense of dread descended upon the train. The lights began to flicker, a cold wind whispered through the carriages, and the atmosphere became heavy with an unspoken terror. Arjun's skepticism waned when he witnessed the first manifestation of the Dark Passenger. It began as a shadow, a mere flicker in the corner of his eye, but it quickly grew into something more tangible, more terrifying. The apparition was a dark, shapeless form, its presence suffocating, filling the air with a palpable sense of malice. Passengers began to panic as the entity moved through the train, its malevolent force leaving a trail of chaos. People were found in a state of catatonic shock, their eyes wide with an unspeakable fear, while others vanished without a trace, leaving behind only echoes of their screams. Arjun realized that the Dark Passenger was not just a spirit but a manifestation of the collective fears and sins of the passengers. It fed on their terror, growing stronger with each passing moment. Determined to survive, Arjun sought the help of an elderly passenger, Mrs. Banerjee, who was rumored to possess knowledge of ancient rituals and exorcisms. Mrs. Banerjee revealed that the Dark Passenger could be banished, but it required a ritual that needed to be performed in the heart of the train, where the spirit was strongest. As the train hurtled through the night, Arjun and Mrs. Banerjee prepared for the ritual. The other passengers, driven by their primal fear of survival, joined in, their collective willpower a beacon in the darkness. The ritual was a battle against the unseen, a confrontation with the very essence of fear. The train itself seemed to come alive, the carriages shaking as if in the grip of an unseen storm. The Dark Passenger, sensing its impending doom, unleashed its fury, the air filled with the sounds of wailing and despair. In the climax of the ritual, Arjun and Mrs. Banerjee, with the help of the passengers, chanted the ancient incantations, their voices rising above the din. As they reached the final verse, a blinding light enveloped the train, the sound of ancient chains breaking echoed through the air. When the light faded, the train emerged from the darkness, the first light of dawn breaking on the horizon. The Dark Passenger was gone, banished back to the netherworld from which it had come. The Rajani Express pulled into the station, the passengers disembarking in silence, their eyes reflecting the horrors they had witnessed. Arjun, forever changed by the experience, left with a newfound respect for the mysteries that lay beyond the realm of science. The tale of Train 666 and the Dark Passenger became a legend, a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that lurk in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to unleash their terror upon the unsuspecting world.
Now the fifth story.
In the dense, fog-enshrouded forests of there ran an ancient railway line, long forgotten by time. This line was home to the ghost train, a spectral locomotive that appeared only on the most stormy and ominous nights. It was said to be a harbinger of doom, carrying with it a malevolent spirit known as the Wraith of the Rails. In a small, remote village near the railway, there lived a boy named Eric. Eric was an orphan, raised by his grandmother, who told him tales of the old railway and warned him never to venture near it after dark. But Eric, like many children, was drawn to the forbidden, and the mystery of the ghost train fascinated him. One fateful night, driven by a mixture of curiosity and youthful bravado, Eric ventured out into the storm, making his way to the old, derelict railway station. As thunder rumbled and lightning split the sky, the ghost train materialized on the tracks, its phantom steam engine glowing with an eerie light. Eric, mesmerized by the sight, climbed aboard. The train's carriages were shrouded in shadow, and an unnatural chill permeated the air. No sooner had he stepped inside than the train lurched into motion, plunging deeper into the darkness of the storm-ravaged night. As the train hurtled through the forest, Eric realized he was not alone. The carriages were filled with the ghosts of passengers, their faces twisted in eternal torment. Their eyes were hollow, their mouths agape in silent screams. The air was filled with the whispers of the dead, recounting tales of tragedy and despair. At the heart of the train, in the last carriage, Eric encountered the Wraith of the Rails. It was a terrifying specter, cloaked in shadows, its eyes burning like coals. The Wraith was the embodiment of the train's dark history, a collection of souls lost in tragic accidents along the railway, bound together in a twisted amalgamation of anger and sorrow. The Wraith spoke to Eric, its voice a chilling blend of the countless souls it contained. It revealed that the train was a purgatory, a prison for those who had perished in sorrow and were unable to move on. The Wraith had chosen Eric, sensing in him a loneliness and despair that mirrored its own. As the night wore on, Eric was subjected to the horrors of the ghost train. He witnessed the tragic fates of the passengers, reliving their final moments in a series of nightmarish visions. The train itself seemed to be alive, its corridors twisting and turning, leading Eric deeper into a labyrinth of terror. Determined to escape and free the trapped souls, Eric confronted the Wraith. In a climactic battle of wills, Eric channeled his own pain and loneliness, turning them into a beacon of hope and light. He recited an old incantation his grandmother had taught him, one that could break the bonds of sorrow and release the spirits from their torment. As Eric reached the climax of the incantation, the train erupted in a blinding light. The ghosts of the passengers were released, their forms dissolving into the air, their whispered thanks a gentle breeze in Eric's ear. The ghost train, now empty and lifeless, ground to a halt. Eric found himself alone on the tracks, the first rays of dawn piercing the darkness. The Wraith was gone, its curse lifted, and the train vanished into the mist, its haunting whistle a fading echo in the morning light. Eric returned to the village, forever changed by his encounter with the ghost train. The tale of his bravery and the night he faced the Wraith of the Rails became a legend in the village, a chilling story of the darkest night when a young boy stood against the horrors of the past and emerged victorious. And in the heart of the forest, the old railway line lay silent, the ghost train a spectral memory, its legacy a reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unseen horrors that lurk in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to emerge into our lives.